The story of the Great Flood is one of the most universal narratives in human history. It appears in the Bible, the Qur'an, and ancient traditions from cultures across the world. At the center of this story stands Noah, peace be upon him, a man chosen to survive a catastrophe that reshaped the earth and reset human civilization. In the Abrahamic traditions, the flood was not a small or local event. It was a world-altering disaster that wiped out most of humanity. After it ended, civilization as it once existed was gone, and humanity was forced to begin again. For a long time, this account was viewed purely as religious narrative. But in recent decades, archaeology and geology have reopened the discussion. Across different regions of the world, researchers have identified flood layers, erosion patterns, and ancient artifacts that appear to date back to roughly the same period, often estimated at around 5,000 years ago. In Mesopotamia, sediment layers show evidence of massive flooding. Similar timelines appear in other parts of the ancient world. One of the most debated examples comes from Egypt. Some researchers argue that erosion marks found on structures near the Great Pyramid complex and the Sphinx show signs of prolonged water erosion rather than wind and sand alone. While this interpretation is not universally accepted, it has raised serious questions about whether parts of these structures were exposed to heavy rainfall or large-scale flooding in deep antiquity. What makes this more intriguing is that monumental structures across the world seem to emerge within similar time. The pyramids of Egypt, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, and the massive stone structures of the Americas associated with the Aztec and Maya civilizations all appear after a period many traditions associate with a great flood. These civilizations, separated by oceans and continents, built in strikingly similar ways. They used massive stone blocks, precise geometry, astronomical alignments, and sacred proportions. Many of them also share stories of powerful beings, teachers, or survivors who arrived after a great destruction and helped humanity rebuild. This raises an important question. If civilization was nearly wiped out, how did complex knowledge reappear so quickly? One possibility suggested in religious tradition is that survivors of the flood carried fragments of earlier knowledge. Not full systems of science or technology, but memories, symbols, geometry, and sacred instructions passed down through generations. Another way to understand this is through a modern analogy. Imagine a global catastrophe today. An asteroid impact, a massive flood, or a worldwide earthquake wipes out 90% of humanity. Planes, satellites, and smartphones would still exist, but very few people would know how to recreate them. Within a few generations, advanced technology would stop working. Knowledge would fade, and what once was normal would become myth. Within 3 or 4 generations, people might speak of flying machines and instant communication as legends. Evidence would remain, but understanding would be lost. So what if Earth has experienced resets before? What if civilization reached a peak, suffered a massive global disaster, and restarted, over and over again, each time believing it had reached the height of human achievement, unaware that others before had believed the same? From this perspective, the flood of Noah is not just a story of destruction and survival. It is a warning about arrogance, a reminder that progress is fragile, and knowledge can be lost far more easily than it is gained. The shared architectural styles, the repeated use of sacred geometry, and the global presence of flood myths may not be coincidence. They may be echoes of a forgotten world, passed down through survivors who did not fully understand what they inherited, whether taken literally, symbolically, or somewhere in between. The story of Noah's flood forces us to rethink our place in history. Perhaps we are not at the pinnacle of human achievement, Perhaps we are simply the latest chapter in a much longer story of rise, collapse, and renewal. And if that is true, then the real question is not whether ancient civilizations were advanced, but whether we will recognize the signs before history repeats itself once again.